Good morning. Welcome to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. That's John Cornell, better known as JC. I'm Shane Matthews. We're coming to you live from the Crime Prevention System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care.
Big day today, my man.
Yeah, we got a full packed house today. We're going to talk recap the Gator basketball. A lot of SEC basketball games last night. We're going to have Brent Beard from over in Jacksonville. He's a co-host of College Sports Today. This guy has a wealth of knowledge, been covering college football for over 30-something years here in the South, and he will join the program about 8:20.
Okay.
Then tomorrow's show, if things go planned, we're going to have Andy Staples joining
Sports
us.
Illustrated.
No, he's from The Athletic.
It's from The Athletic. Well, I used to write for Sports
Not anymore.
Illustrated.
He's from The Athletic. He's going to join us live from New Orleans. He's over there covering the national championship game.
He's a Florida Gator.
Offensive lineman. Yep. And then Josh Booty, former LSU quarterback. You never know with Josh, though.
I remember Josh Booty.
He's all around the country playing golf, doing this,
hunting.
doing that, hunting, and doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he told me he was going to try to join us. We'll try to get his perspective of what's going on in Baton Rouge all year long.
We're in the Superdome, and we'll be talking with Brent Beard about the national championship game, which is on Monday. We have a host of topics to talk to him about. But my man, QB, the Gator basketball team, we missed yesterday, but we talked about it on Tuesday prior to the game happening, and they were up in Columbia. We had Chris Harry on there, and one of the questions I asked him was, I said, would the second half of the Alabama game kind of kickstart this team into high gear? And with an 81-point performance and loads of confidence on the court, I think we're starting to see the team that you've been talking about that we would see that many folks didn't think would come yet. And I think they're coming because these last two games, the second half of that Alabama game, which I think people will remember, and, of course, the South Carolina road win by 13 points, 81-68, I think something's kicked into these guys. What do you think? Well,
it's a very talented team, and they're still extremely young. Also, congratulations to Mike White. He won his 200th career game and his 99th here at the University of Florida. And with his next win, he'll reach 100 as faster than anyone other than Coach Billy D. Billy D did it in 154 games, where Mike White, this will be number 156. So all these people bitching and complaining about firing him, this, that, and the other, it's ridiculous. The guy is getting it done, and this team has a chance to have a big year. Think about it, JC. They have 4 losses. Yeah. 2 of those losses are the top 10 teams in the country.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, I know.
They haven't lost to any of these non-Power 5 schools. So
they lost to Utah State. That was probably their worst day. But
Utah State at one time was ranked in the top 25.
Maybe, but that was
not maybe, they were.
Well, whatever. But I mean, Utah State. Okay, so
they're a very good basketball team. They will make the tournament.
Okay, I'm sure.
Okay.
Just like everybody else on the street corner. But
no, that's not the case.
But Florida,
64 teams.
I think that was probably not. That may have been like I don't want to say the worst game I saw him play.
No, Florida State by far.
Florida State
wasn't even close.
Well, but that was so far back in early November. But look, this team really showed me something coming back in that Alabama game. They could have rolled over and played dead. They come back, they hit 83% of their free throws, and then go on the road and dominate a game. And I don't think there was any doubt watching that South Carolina game they were going to win. Nembhard was excellent. He was, 21-something points in that game?
He had a double-double. It was probably the best game he's played.
It was the best game he's played, but they scored 40 in the first half, 41 in the second half, and I really liked what I saw out of Andrew Nembhard. I loved what I saw out of, once again, shooting free throws. They were 76% from the line. They had 42 rebounds, and they were almost 50% from the field. This is the kind of team I want to see out there playing. And listen, the schedule is, it's very doable. Coming up, what's next? They have
they go to Missouri on Saturday.
To Missouri, right. So, this is a team that lost last night, Missouri. You've got a confident Florida team going up there. I don't see why they can't go 3-0. Missouri last night loses by 10 at home to Tennessee, 69-59. So, actually, that was Tuesday night they lost. But this is a very good chance to go 3-0.
Did you watch any college basketball last night?
I watched Alabama score 90 points.
I told you, Alabama is a team that's going to give people fits all year long.
They won 90-69 over Mississippi State. I saw Auburn hang on by a 4 to beat Vandy 83-79, still undefeated, ranked 5th in the country. They will be playing at Alabama next week. And then LSU and Arkansas was an excellent game, very entertaining.
Those are 2 tournament teams.
Yeah, LSU wins by 2 at home. So good basketball in the conference last night.
Yeah, no question. You know, what's interesting is, there's been so many people criticizing Mike White and the Gators, and they're 10-4 at this point. Could you imagine what the talk shows up in Chapel Hill, North Carolina are about? I mean, they're sitting at 8-7 right now.
They may not make the
tournament. They're not. Well, they won't. They're
right
projected to not
out.
make the tournament.
Yeah, right now
they may have trouble making the NIT at this point.
I don't think they would want to go to the NIT. Could you imagine North Carolina? So this weekend we've got an Alabama team traveling to Kentucky. That could be interesting. The Gators will be playing at Missouri at 8:30 on Saturday. That's the night game. LSU will host Mississippi State. They look to stay unbeaten in the conference. Georgia and Auburn, A&M Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Tennessee. So a full slate on Saturday, January the 11th in the conference. So basketball is a topic we'll continue to talk about today and tomorrow. But when we have Brent on, we're going to relive some of the big moments from the bowl season and national championship game on Monday night.
Yes, no doubt. We're going to be talking about
by the way, did you notice what I got here, baby?
Yeah, the Golden Gophers.
Why am I wearing Minnesota?
Because they won a bowl game.
Over
Auburn. So do you buy something every time someone beats Auburn?
All I can tell you is that Gus Malzahn, the great one, the anointed one, the only guy that can beat Nick Saban, right? He is 0-5 in bowl games against ranked teams. 0-5.
Mm-hmm.
And Minnesota ran them over in that game. They didn't even get the license tag after the truck ran them over. And doubled up the great Auburn offense in total yards, 494 to 232 total yards.
So did you order this hat after the bowl game?
That Auburn Tiger steel curtain with Davidson and Brown just got trucked.
You didn't answer my question. Did you order that after the bowl game?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
When do
we have a text message here. If you want to text us, it's 352-353-7465. It's the Titan MRI text line, and BB says from Apopka, why are so many people complaining and want Mike White fired?
Oh, my God.
Well, BB, I'm a huge Mike White supporter. I think he will. What are you doing?
I'm getting that number down so people can text.
No, Mike White. I think so many people, because they were preseason ranked number 6 in the country.
High
The
expectations.
way the season started. Again, they're 10-4. They're going to make the tournament. I think they're going to make a deep run. They're getting better. The young players are getting more experience. And like I said, he's going to break all of Billy Donovan's records from a win standpoint. Now, we got to, winning national titles in basketball at Florida, to me, I feel like that is the most it's the craziest thing that's happened at this school, winning basketball national championships. But he is not going to be fired. He's going nowhere. I think this team is looking better each week.
You're the only guy I've ever heard tell me something about people being angry about him and being fired. I haven't heard anybody in Gainesville talk about that. Who are you talking to?
Not just in Gainesville. It's the Gator Nation, and there's so many people. And there was somebody wearing a Minnesota Golden Gopher hat that texted me saying this team wouldn't make the NIT.
Oh, come on, QB. It's 9:30 at night, and I'm laughing at them because they stunk that night, and you're taking it literally.
But no, because I know how long a season is. I know the talent. I know the coach they have. You're not going to win every game.
Do you run the PR firm that he hired to make sure?
No, I don't. I know when I see good coaches, and I know when I see bad coaches. Mm-hmm. I know when a team is talented and has a good chance of winning.
Yes.
But you're not going to win every game.
Well, we've had our share in this league of bad coaches.
So but my point is, look at North Carolina. Is Roy Williams a bad coach?
I never said he was a bad coach.
No, but they're 8-7. They're struggling this year because they're young.
Don't make
they
that
have
comparison.
multiple players hurt.
You can't compare Roy Williams and Mike White.
Well, I'm not. I'm just trying to tell you that fans are ridiculous.
Well, that's fandom. That's the world of fandom. See all those people sitting in this arena right here?
Yeah.
These are fans.
How many of them you think ever put on a uniform of any sort?
This guy right here and this guy
played in a YMCA league
down here
back when he was 5.
This guy who's sitting on the 50-yard line did. See right there?
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're going to have Brent Beard join us at 8:20 talking college football. Also, don't forget tomorrow we're going to have Andy Staples and Josh Booty join the program.
I think Andy Staples is tremendous. I really
Did you know he was a football player here?
No, see that I didn't know.
He was a walk-on offensive lineman.
Okay, he was a walk-on. Yeah, I do remember
the
him.
Things you learn here, JC.
Well, hey, that's why we are premium content here. That's why people need to sponsor.
Yes, indeed.
353-7465 if you want to call or text the show.
Also,
on the Titan MRI text line.
Yes. Also, Jake Fromm
Yeah,
Georgia's got some issues. They got a lot of players leaving. The quarterback's leaving. And did you hear about the Cade Mays situation?
No, I didn't hear that.
Well, he started 11 games on the offensive line for him. He's transferring to Tennessee.
Oh.
But his dad has a lawsuit against Georgia because he was in some folding chair and his pinky got snapped off and they had to amputate part of it. So
why is that Greg McGarry's problem at Georgia?
Well,
why is that the University of Georgia's problem?
Well, because it was some chair he was sitting in their complex.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll let Brent Beard talk to us more about that. But I just got a text message from Daryl in Green Coast Springs. Says, guys, I know these kids have their own life, but I think Jake Fromm needs another year at Georgia. Plus, I would like to see Florida beat him at least once. Daryl from Green Coast Springs. Daryl, appreciate the text. That's on the Titan MRI text line. I personally don't think Jake Fromm should have left. Right. I don't think he's rated as the fifth quarterback coming out.
Right.
I think Jake is a really good college quarterback. I don't know if he'll ever be a starter in the NFL. He could be one of those guys that's going to last 5 or 6 years as a backup, similar to A.J. McCarron. So,
well,
I don't think and maybe it's because of Georgia's offense. I don't think he throws the ball well enough.
Well, I don't know about his arm strength comparable to some of these other guys that are going to go before him. I do think he's good. He's good with the timing and the accuracy aspect. I saw him throw some passes, QB, in the SEC championship game 2 years ago that were NFL passes.
Well, here's the thing.
And I know Ridley was out there on the field and some of these other receivers. I get it.
No, that's not my point.
This guy threw some balls.
Well, if you're a starting quarterback in college football, you should be able to throw some balls, first of all.
But no, these were NFL type passes.
He's had spurts where he's been outstanding.
Yeah.
The game you're referring to, and he played his best game of his career against Florida this year. I think he was 17 of 20 or 20 of 23. So bottom line is, I just don't think he should have come out.
Well, so does Steve Smith. He says he thinks Fromm and the kid from Hawaii, that would be Tua, should have came back to school. Thank you, Steve, for the text. Tua, I think so, yeah. But listen, he's got information. The doctors it's all going to be, the guy's walking around now. The doctors are going to determine how high this kid gets drafted, in my opinion, because that's who the NFL is going to consult.
Well, here's where I think
this is a quarterback draft that's got some, I wouldn't call this an elite class. I would say they have an elite quarterback, even though I heard Greg McElroy today on the radio talk about how Joe Burrow isn't quite elite. I don't know what he's talking about.
Joe Burrow is the best college quarterback I've seen.
Well, maybe you need to get on that show and tell Greg that. But
that's why he's sitting in the studio.
Yeah. Burrow will be one at Cincinnati. Then you've got Tua, Herbert, Eason, and this kid Love out of Utah State. So Fromm could be 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever.
I think he'll be drafted in the 4th round.
4th round. So that's pretty low. And if he's hoping that the New England Patriots call him up and say, hey, be our guy, we're going to draft you in the 2nd round, maybe first, that could be the only reason why I think he's done this, because he got word that Belichick was going to call him and say, hey, come learn under Tom Brady. He's only got a year or 2 left, and you're going to get the best coaching in the league. Go pro and we'll pick you up. I don't know. Would the Patriots pick up a guy like that? I don't know. But that's the only reason I see him going with this class, which is okay. Other than Burrow, Tua, I don't know how durable he's going to be, but he's one of the best passers I've ever seen in college football. Herbert and Eason just don't. There's something missing with both those guys. They're physical specimens, yes, but they kind of remind me of Paxton Lynch and that other tall kid that was playing. These guys, I don't know.
I think Eason's got a chance.
You think Eason does more so than Herbert, maybe?
I think they're the same guy. I think Herbert's a little more athletic. He's got a lot of running ability. Until an Oregon quarterback can prove himself, I'm not that high on him.
And Love, pretty good player, but threw a lot of interceptions. So I
like that kid, though.
I know you do. You're a Utah State. I'm going to get you a Utah State fan. They've got the best basketball team in the country, and I
didn't say they had the best. I said they're a very good basketball team.
Why is he wearing an Aggies outfit right now? I don't know. I just know this. These guys ran over the Auburn Tiger steel curtain, okay? Ran them over and averaged almost 5 yards a carry running the football. Steve, again, no, the QB from Hawaii University. Thank you for correcting me on that. I don't know who the QB from Hawaii University of Hawaii.
He's got some long hair. He's a good player, but
is he Colt Brennan? No, he's not Colt Brennan.
We got another text here. Do you want to read that one?
It's on fire.
It's from Hack
these letters are so
from Archer
small here. Hack from Archer. How about the Georgia offensive line? Clay Webb under federal lawsuit for putting his semen in a Powerade and his high school teammate drinking. Listen, I don't know where you get all this information, but we have quite an audience, and thank you for that. I can't comment on that. How are you going to comment?
I'm not, but that's what I'm saying. Georgia's lost a lot of players that got multiple lawsuits. It'll be interesting to see what happens in Athens, and we'll talk to Brent Beard here after the first break.
We're at the break.
Yep, we're already at the first break. You're listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the morning, JC and the QB, coming to you from Crime Prevention System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's Pot Up with Matthews in the morning. JC, John Cornell, Shane Matthews coming to you from Crime Prevention System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We're going to go straight to the phone lines. That's the Titan MRI phone line. And be joined by my good buddy Brent Beard from Jacksonville, who's been covering sports for over 30 years, co-host of College Sports Today, college football analyst for First Coast News. He's a Heisman voter and much, much more. Brent Beard, welcome to the program. How are you, my man?
Sure, I'm doing well. Good to be with you guys. And listen, you would think that this would be a quiet time in college football, but it's anything but, right, Shane?
No doubt about it. And Monday night could be one of the best national championship games we've ever seen. Clemson Tigers and the LSU Tigers. What you think about that game, Brent?
I think this is such an evenly matched game. I really go back and forth. I'm not going to say it's a coin flip at this point, but there are times in my mind that it is. I think the key for this game, and I'll add maybe a couple more with it, but can Clemson with Brent Venables get pressure on Joe Burrow? And I think if anybody can, they very well might be able to do that, particularly with the extra time that they've had. Another key for this game, and the extra time helped guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire to be healthy for LSU. I was able to cover the Alabama-LSU game, and the Tigers are so good, and Helaire at that time was really coming into his own. And listen, guys, he's as dangerous, I think, as a receiver as he is a running back. So he will have time at that point to get well, and I would say my third key to this game, right, is on Trevor Lawrence in a position that he didn't have to be in a good bit during the year in the Ohio State game. He was actually a dual threat quarterback that made plays with his legs, and frankly was pretty effective in doing so. Will LSU, with what I think is an improving defense with Dave Aranda, allow him to be able to scamper for anything near what he did against Ohio State? Michael Divinity is back for LSU at linebacker. It will be interesting to see how many snaps. He can go, but I tell you guys, the storylines and the comparison in this game are almost endless.
I think Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen. QB Shane has said he's the best quarterback in college that he's ever seen. How would you rank him?
Well, he's certainly up there. There's no question. And the scheme that Joe Brady has done with him has worked to a T. I mean, the thing they do is so well is regardless of how good the defense is, they put so much pressure on the defense because you never really know where things are coming. And my key to the Alabama game, guys, was not even what he was going to be doing throwing the ball, but it was how effective. What we talked about Trevor Lawrence a minute ago, the thing to me that makes them go is Burrow is able to run. Now, we didn't see this in him last year, and this is a different system, obviously, or somewhat different than what they ran last year. But, guys, I think Burrow's ability on, say, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 5, yep. You've got to be able to cover him, don't you? Or because if you don't, he's going to be able to sneak in there, get a first down, keep that drive going, and you look up, and they're in the red zone again. It happened throughout the whole year.
It's incredible, these two quarterbacks. And before we get to the transfer portal that I was going to ask you about, just one last thing about Burrow. Have you ever seen a guy's completion percentage, Brent, go up from one year to the next as dramatically as Joe's have? From 50 some odd percent to 70 some odd. It's crazy.
It is, and I think it's a combination of a lot of things. The receivers have really come into their own, and again, we mentioned Hilaire coming out of the backfield or whatever, Georgia back, that it might be, and because of their balance that they've got on offense, you've got to be able to respect them, and he's pretty good at the check downs too, but he's also accurate all over the field. So it is dramatic that it's basically nearing or at 80%, which is just absolutely bizarre and unheard of in this day and age.
Talk about some of these quarterbacks that are currently in the transfer portal, Brent. As we move forward, it's crazy to me that these guys. Well, it's not crazy. I think it's good that they have these rules now, and I think these guys are using them properly. But talk about some of the quarterbacks in the current transfer portal.
Well, what this done is it's basically reinvented some of these guys' career.
Absolutely.
Is the thing that's happened with them now. If you're a Georgia fan, you want to particularly pay attention to this because that's probably where they're going. Now that Jake Fromm is going to the NFL, I mean, I know they've got Stetson Bennett and DeJuan Mathis and Carson Beck. Carson Beck being from Jacksonville. But, guys, to be honest with you, these guys just aren't ready yet. And likely what Georgia's going to have to do is that they're going to have to be looking at guys like K.J. Costello from Stanford, Jamie Newman from Wake Forest, who I've heard from our Georgia media contacts is probably who they're really going to go after. And listen, he had a nice year, did he not? With Wake this year, 26 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. I mean, you've also got Anthony Brown of Boston College, who was 20-9, which is pretty good within itself. Jet Duffy, it's a great name, from Texas Tech, 18-5. And then Nick Starkel from Arkansas, and least we forget, you've got Felipe Franks in there. So, and I know it's not an exhaustive list, guys, but that's a pretty good list to choose from.
Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. We're speaking with Brent Beard out of Jacksonville, co-host of College Sports Today. You can check him out on Twitter at Brent Beard. Brent, let's move to the SEC here, and we're speaking with Brent on the Titan MRI phone line as well. But Brent, the Alabama Crimson Tide, not the year that everyone thought they would have, obviously not playing in the college football playoff, losing a lot of good players, maybe the best quarterback they've ever had there. What's going on in Tuscaloosa?
Well, and it's kind of a wait and see with some of these juniors. Now, Jerry Judy, Jedrick Wills, Terrell Lewis, Xavier McKinney, Tua and Henry Ruggs have decided to go. I think Ruggs should have stayed another year. Frankly, I think he's got like a second round grade at this point. But incredibly important for them, Dylan Moses and Josh McMillan, Alex Leatherwood, Devonta Smith, who's one of the better receivers in the league. Mm-hmm. Now, Najee Harris, if you haven't heard his name, is because he hasn't made a decision. We've got January 20th before we make a decision on this, and it's final. But Najee's still trying to decide what he wants to do. And I hear he wants to come back. Now they've got a pretty strong running back room. You throw him back in there, and that would be amazing. But guys, what Bama's got to do, what's a priority for them? I think they'll be pretty good with Mac Jones as far as what he'll be able to do. Obviously, that they've got some real talent coming in too, but what they've got to do is rebuild the defense. And what they're lacking is what Dylan Moses and Josh McMillan give them, which are some veterans in that linebacker position that would help them a lot. That's going to be the key for them, even after the loss of Tua, is the defense has got to be better in that front seven.
Down Highway 231, you end up going to Montgomery, and you take a left, and you end up in Auburn. And Auburn is a team that did not fare as well in their bowl game. If you could see Shane and I right now, I have a Minnesota Golden Gophers hat on, being an Alabama graduate. So I'm quite pleased with what happened in that game in Tampa. Talk to us a little bit about how Auburn is feeling right about now after Minnesota essentially doubled them up offensively on yardage. And Gus Malzahn is, reading your notes, is 0-5 in bowl games against ranked teams. I didn't know that, and that kind of surprises me, Brent. What's going on in the Plains?
And they have struggled in bowl games. And the truth of the matter is, guys, that they've also struggled over the last several years. Malzahn is averaging 4 losses a year, which that is adding up for the Auburn faithful. I can tell you that from talking with the beat writers in the state of Alabama on both sides, that the fan base will be glad to see a change. And part of that change was not Malzahn, but it's in the staff. J.B. Grimes, the offensive line coach, is leaving. So they'll be looking for another offensive line coach. Okay. And I talked to some of the media who were at the Outback Bowl, and guys, they said even though that was basically a touchdown difference in that game, that Minnesota dominated that game, which I agree does not bode well for them at all. Now, the trouble with Auburn again, and we'll have more time to talk about it as it goes on throughout the off season. They're going to be struggling on the line of scrimmage. That offensive line, to be honest with you, even with the Grimes back, was not very good. And the Auburn beat writers that we talked to would tell you that they haven't recruited well in offensive line too. So obviously that they lose a lot of talent like Derek Brown on the defensive line. So that Auburn line of scrimmage, guys, is a priority for them coming up.
Brent, looking at the Florida Gators, tremendous year in year 2 for Dan Mullen. Talk a little bit about how the transfer portal has helped them. Obviously, with John Grenard, they're only losing one player, underclassman at this point, C.J. Henderson, but they have some guys transferring in that could really help this program.
Shane, I've said over the last few months, if Jonathan Grenard had been healthy all year long, he would have been one of the prime candidates for SEC Defensive Player of the Year. I think that's how important he was when he was healthy. Now, what helps them immensely is Marco Wilson coming back. Sean Davis is also coming back. But you throw in the transfer with Lorenzo Lingard coming from Miami and Xavier Henderson, CJ's brother, coming in. Trevon Grimes returning. That's huge for them. I mean, yes, they obviously have got losses. I may have been as impressed with them this year as about any team. Frankly, I think they would have given LSU a lot more problem than Oklahoma would have if they could have played again in the playoffs. Nice job winning the bowl game. They were able to run the ball better than we thought they would with the Michael P. Ryan. Were able to keep Bryce Perkins somewhat in check. He still made some unbelievable throws in that game. But, guys, now with Jake Fromm leaving, and I've already seen him this morning like you probably have, the articles are starting to come out. Is Florida the favorite in the East now with Fromm gone?
And that's what I was going to follow up with you, Brent, is Georgia and their issues right now going on internally as well as losing their quarterback. We're going to see a changing of the guard in the SEC East, do you believe, in the next year to 2 years?
Well, I think it's possible, but we can't discount Georgia right now. They've just got too much talent, guys. And the reality for this is when you get past the offensive situation, and that's their main problem at this point, even beyond quarterback. My concern is what's happening now with the offensive line, with the losses. And people may not have heard this, but Cade Mays, one of their 5-star offensive linemen, who played a lot this year, is going to Tennessee. Now, he's got a relative that plays up there. Not only that, but they've got this bizarre situation where his father was at a practice or a game and had some kind of an accident with his finger, and it basically severed the finger. So I think there's a lawsuit involved with that. But above and beyond that stuff, Kirby Smart's in the crossroads right now. That offense is going to be better, even with that line. The receivers like Lawrence Cager, they were not as effective as they should be. They've got to open that up. Does he keep Coley as his OC? Because I do think the defense is, again, going to be very good. Richard LeCount's coming back. Also, Malik Herring's coming back, for instance. So it's a huge offseason, guys, to get some changes offensively for them to keep going next year. And by the way, don't forget, in September, third game of the year, they play Alabama in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, can't wait. Couple things for you, more things for you there, Brent. We're speaking with Brent Beard from College Sports Today over in Jacksonville on the Titan MRI phone line. Let's go to my home state. I think this is very intriguing. Let's talk quickly about the hire at Ole Miss and what's going on with Mississippi State, the potential candidates. I saw where they've interviewed Mike Leach. What can you tell us going on there in the state of Mississippi?
And Ole Miss was in great shape. Lane Kiffin, DJ Durkin, by the way, has been hired. Gator fans are certainly aware of that. Chris Partridge from Michigan, A&M tight ends coach Joe John Finley, another great Southern name and coaching lore to the Ole Miss staff. Mississippi State is an intriguing situation, to say the least. Steve Sarkisian from Alabama has been mentioned for that job. I think he probably stays in Tuscaloosa. Mike Leach would be a tremendous hire for them if they want to counter the publicity they're going to get from Lane Kiffin and all his press conferences. Have also heard, and I think it's died down a good bit, Todd Grantham of Florida. He may want to stay a little longer before he makes that move, and also Skip Holtz of Louisiana Tech. Guys, the reality is, do you really want to go to Mississippi State right now when you've got Bama, LSU, Auburn, A&M rising up, and Ole Miss? That'd be a tough job to be at right now, even with the SEC money involved.
I mean, the West to me is just ridiculous. It has been for a while. Closer to home, Brent, Florida State and Miami, both ending the year in disappointing fashion in their bowl games. Miami did not score a point in its bowl game. Manny Diaz seems to be somewhat over his head in my mind. But how do you see it over in Tallahassee and Coral Gables?
Well, I like Mike Norvell.
Yep.
I think he's going to be fine.
Yep.
I think that was a really good hire for them. Now, he is keeping Odell Higgins, which he needed to do that, and he's also keeping Ron Dugans. I think this is a pretty good coaching staff. Shane may know a few of these guys too, but I like what he's done. I don't know where Miami's going, guys. I'm just being honest with you about that. They've hired Rhett Lashley, who was at Auburn and at SMU. I think that's an underwhelming hire, to be honest with you. But after Dan Enos has been fired, but they've got to find a quarterback. There's so many issues right now at Miami. It's going to be a fascinating offseason where that goes. But between the two, I'm a whole lot more optimistic about FSU. And again, remember, they start the year, guys, with West Virginia. And then a few weeks after that, they go to Boise. So it's going to be a very interesting September for the Nobles.
No doubt about it. Brent, you want to add any nuggets before we let you get out of here?
Well, I think a couple of guys at A&M who are leaving, Kendrick Rogers, who's number 13, that big, tall, rangy receiver, he has announced that he'll be going to the draft. So I think that's unfortunate for them. That's going on too. Guys, watch this at Tennessee. Trey Smith, the one of the best offensive linemen in the league, deciding this week what he's going to do if he stays in Tennessee. That's huge for them. He's had blood clots, as you know, in his lungs. Very serious, but he's in much better shape now. Had a good year. So he'll be making that decision as far as what he's going to do. So, and again, we'll be closely looking at the Mississippi State situation. Who's going back and forth to Najee Harris? Does he make that decision to go or stay in Alabama? So, listen, guys, as both of you know, there is a off season for us. We love it, and we'll be looking at it closely over the next few days and weeks.
All right, awesome. Brent, we appreciate it. We can check out your work at Brent Beard. That's Bearid on Twitter. Does a tremendous job, Brent. We appreciate it, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Look forward to it, guys.
Take care.
Thanks.
All right, that was Brent Beard over in Jacksonville, co-host of College Sports Today on the Titan MRI phone line. We're going to take a quick timeout. We'll be right back. You're listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning with JC and the QB. Welcome back. It's Caught Up with Matthews in the Morning. JC and the QB, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m., coming to you from the Crime Prevention System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care.
That's good stuff with our man, Brent.
Oh, Brent's awesome.
We got to keep him around.
Yes, if you want to text the program, it's 352-353-7465. We actually have a text right here. This is from Young Becker in Madison, Mississippi. Says, Shane, with all your QB knowledge, and I'm sure from the little you have seen Ole Miss, Who would be your starting QB for Ole Miss if you have to make the decision today? That's a great question because John Rice Plumlee is more of a runner, not a great thrower, but a tremendous athlete and usually the fastest kid on the team, on the field.
That's amazing.
And then he's going to be Matt Corral is the other quarterback. I assume they're both going to stay there, but it's going to be interesting to see what Lane Kiffin does because Lane likes to throw the football. Yeah. We'll have to see how the spring plays out. Corral's the better thrower.
I got to say that favors him, but he's got to keep his head on his neck. He can't go beating up the coaches in the locker room and doing crazy stuff he did. And I know that's all hearsay, but you're not going to make it up, right? This guy's got a flair for a temper, and Kiffin won't play that. He doesn't care. What does Kiffin care? If Corral doesn't get it done in the locker room, how's he going to get it done on the field? So I would agree with you. I think Corral would be the guy you look at, but Plumlee scores points.
Well, I think he's going to end up playing them both, and he can tweak his system. And maybe he can work on a high percentage passing game for Plumlee to throw a lot of completions. The whole state of Mississippi football now is going to be fascinating because you got Lane at Ole Miss. And I got this funny feeling that they're going to hire the Pirate.
If they hire, and he's the kind of guy who doesn't care about playing LSU, Auburn, and Alabama. He couldn't care less. He's got his 7 plays on his 3x5 card.
The problem with him is he's going to have to go find some quarterbacks because they don't have anybody that can throw the football.
And he's got to find somebody who can tackle too.
I'm not worried about that. They don't. None of his teams ever tackle anybody. But he's got to find somebody that can throw the football forward at a high percentage because they don't have that in Starkville right now.
Well, it's tough to figure.
But can you imagine Lane Kiffin and Mike Leach press conferences?
It would be very.
Would you move to Mississippi just to be to co-cover those guys?
I have many contacts in Mississippi.
Do you?
I do. I'm very popular there. I like it. It's a good state. It's a little far, but it's cool. I'll tell you, the West is so intriguing. It's so interesting. After this game on Monday night with Clemson, what's LSU going to do? And I'm sure they got somebody waiting in the wing. That's great. But that West division, Alabama, they got a big quarterback. Competition coming. Auburn, will Gus will the wolves at the door kind of go away? He did beat Alabama this year, but man, he's awful. Brent said he loses 4 games a year. They don't want that at Auburn. If you lose 4 games a year, quarterback, you know who you turn into? You turn into Kansas State. And that's not what Auburn wants. And it's
similar to what A&M. A&M's gone 7-5. They went 7-5 every year. Kevin Sumlin was the coach.
Yeah,
so
that's hard to believe too.
I don't want to say there's pressure on Jimbo, but they got to turn the tide eventually.
They're paying him more money than almost as much as Saban, right? So or as much. So sure, that pressure is there. And Jimbo knew what the deal was when he left Tallahassee, right?
Yeah. Another text message on the Titan MRI text line.
Beautiful.
Bill from Valdosta says, do you think Jake Fromm should have left school? And do you think he will be a starting quarterback in the NFL? Well, we kind of touched on that earlier. I do not think he should have left. I think maybe his reasoning for leaving is they didn't have great players this year. When he played his best, JC, is when he had Sonny Michel, Nick Chubb,
Ridley.
They had Nauta at tight end.
And Ridley.
So we don't know from a skills position standpoint that surrounds the quarterback. They lost their offensive line coach. They're losing some offensive linemen. He may be saying, this isn't an offense that's going to enhance my draft status. So maybe I need to get out of here now. Because it's not. I don't think they're going to go the LSU route and put up huge numbers.
No.
And that's the only thing that's going to enhance him in a draft status. So
that's a good point. Yeah.
And plus, I think he could be a backup for a long time in the NFL.
Well, I think, again, he's one of those guys who I think got word that somebody good is going to draft him later. And I just threw out New England. It's a total guess. I have no idea. Nobody does. But if you get a Jake Fromm watching Tom Brady or, let's say, Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay or somebody, that's going to help him a lot. And, he's a smart kid. I really think he's a good quarterback. I think he had a bad year this year relative to what he did in the first 2 years. So, I'll never forget that game against Oklahoma. That was one of the best games you'll ever watch in college football. And they won it. And some of those passes I saw him throw in the SEC championship game and the national championship game against Alabama, those were quality passes. But you're right. he struggled this year, and there's no doubt about that.
We got another text here on the Titan MRI hotline. Not sure who it's from, but he says, will Tom Brady leave the Patriots next year, and if so, where will he go?
Well,
that's a great question. That's something we're going to talk about for the next few months. I don't think he's going to play anywhere else. Yeah, the only place I think he would go, JC, is if Josh McDaniel gets the head coaching job of, let's say, the Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
Could you imagine Brady with Nick Chubb in the backfield, Beckham Jr., Landry, all those weapons that the Browns have?
No, I mean, it would be great, but what do you do with Baker?
Well, let Baker, I think, has a chance to be a good quarterback, but it's not like Tom Brady's going to play another 5 years.
It's hard, though. You get a guy who starts a football season, he becomes the face of the team, he does all these commercials, and then you sit him.
Well,
so whatever they have to do at Cleveland, right?
Exactly.
I mean, they were not successful this year. Everybody before the season, everybody had them winning that division, and they weren't even sniffing it.
But my point is, I think the only place that Brady goes, if it's not as a New England Patriot,
so Cleveland's a good
it will be wherever Josh McDaniels gets a head coaching job.
Yeah. And what if they keep Josh in New England?
Well, he'll stay there then.
Yeah, and I think that's important. You know, we all looked at how Lamar Jackson finished the season at Baltimore after that disaster of a playoff game with the Chargers, and automatically just assumed that Lamar is just not going to happen for him, right? And he's going to be the MVP this year. So don't give up on Baker yet in Cleveland. But
I'm not giving up on him at all.
I hear your theory about Josh McDaniels. Wherever he ends up could be where Tom goes. I follow that.
That's right. This is JC and the QB on Matthews in the Morning, coming to you from the Crime Prevention System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. If you want to send a text, send it on the Titan MRI text line, 353-746-5.
So basketball is going to crank up again for Florida this weekend. Big win over South Carolina. They won by 13 points on the road. Really just dominated the game, if you ask me. And I didn't even watch all of it, but the parts I did watch I saw a Florida team that I've been waiting for, and it has happened. I think we're going to look back, and I may be premature here, QB, but I think we're going to look back and say that second half against Alabama is what ignited this team as we recap. And I think that second half Alabama got this team's confidence to a different level. And now with a game at Missouri and not at Kentucky, they can keep this momentum going. They will eventually play Kentucky, but I love the fact that they're going to be playing a team at Missouri who may be struggling a little bit, who lost their last game, and have a chance to go 3-0 in the SEC.
Well, it'd be great to start 3-0. There's
awesome.
no question about it. I've said this team is going to be in the top 3 teams in the SEC.
Yeah.
They will make the tournament.
Yeah, you've said that.
I thought the way they played the other day was outstanding, because anytime you play a Frank Martin coach team,
there they are.
They're going to test your toughness.
They are. And, listen, say what you want about South Carolina, a couple struggles here and there, but they did beat Virginia, and they're playing at home, and Florida just took the battle to them and won a very convincing game. QB, this weekend is also the NFL playoffs, divisional round. And, we're both sad that the New Orleans Saints are not going to be around, but they didn't play well enough to be around. And the team that beat them will be playing in the first game this weekend at San Francisco, and that would be your Minnesota Vikings, who are 7-point underdogs. They were 7-point underdogs against the Saints, and that was an easy win. Do you take them again against the Niners?
I don't think so. I thought I read somewhere where Adam Thielen hurt himself in practice yesterday. But I think anytime you give Kyle Shanahan, who I think is probably the best play caller and schemer in football right now, you give him an extra week to prepare. You're always worried about travel by NFL guys, so they got to go all the way out to the West Coast.
Well, I'm not that worried about it.
They'll probably go a day early.
They're probably there right now.
They play Saturday?
Yeah.
They'll probably leave after practice today, possibly, or maybe they'll leave tomorrow. Who knows? But I think the Vikings can make this a game, but I love the way the 49ers have played.
You like
this
the
year.
7 points? I like the 7 points.
Well, we'll talk about more about that tomorrow.
Okay. What about the second game? Tennessee traveling to Baltimore. Ravens had the week off last week, but Tennessee was impressive in that game against New England.
I actually like the Tennessee Titans in this game. I don't know what the point spread is or anything.
9.5.
Oh, yeah. The reason I like the Titans, because they have this mentality of like the road warriors. They know they're going to have to go on the road, but the way they play good defense and they can run the football. I don't particularly like that, but when you play games and you play a player like a Lamar Jackson, what's
Keep
the
him on
best?
the
What's the
sideline.
best way to frustrate
You got to
him?
keep him on the
Keep
sideline.
him on the sideline. Make them tackle your big
That's
tailback.
interesting.
So it'll,
Yeah.
you know, I think what Lamar has done this year has surprised me because he's not a great thrower of the football. And last year, in all the games he played, he only threw for over 200 yards
He
one
got better
time.
this year,
They've
Brian.
tailored the system around his abilities.
Yeah.
So let's see. I think that'll be a fun game to watch.
Well, it's a night game in Baltimore. Could be rainy and cold.
And that's going to matter to nobody but the
I
people
bring this
sitting
up
in the
'cause
stands.
You always give me this. All right, Sunday as we wrap up the show, a couple minutes left to go. And thank you, by the way, for all of those who texted on the Titan MRI text line and call line at 352-353-7465. Rick, thank you for your text. We'll see if Brady stays another year. He just texted that Brady may stay another year. We'll see. Okay, Rick, we'll see. Sunday, January the 12th, Kansas City. The Chiefs play Houston, and watch out, Chiefs, because this is a team. This is the game that I think is the best game if you're going to pick an underdog to take an underdog. You may not agree, but Houston has already beaten this team
That matters.
in Arrowhead.
That does not matter.
I know it doesn't, but Houston has shown that they can do it. If you're going to give me 10 points, I'm taking Houston, and I think Houston has a chance to actually win this game.
Well, I think the Chiefs win this game handily.
Handily.
I just think
what does handily mean?
2 touchdowns.
So wow,
I really
Dang,
think
10
so.
points.
I just like
Jeez,
Andy Reid
QB. Good
out
Lord.
scheme.
Maybe you're right.
I think the Texans are limited for whatever reason on offense. I know they got DeAndre Hopkins. They
And
got
Watson.
They got some good wideouts. But for whatever reason, if you fall behind to the Chiefs,
Well, they're going to have Will Fuller back. That's going to
that
make
will
a
help.
difference.
The key is if they take the lead against the Chiefs, I think it can stay close and they have a chance. But if the
Yeah.
Chiefs jump ahead by 10, 14 points, game's over.
You see a high-scoring game here?
You would think with the way, anytime the Chiefs play, you think it's going to be high
But
scoring.
I do think Will Fuller will make a difference. It helps them stretch that defense. They didn't have him against Buffalo. They certainly could have used him against Buffalo because they were not impressive. But that's how this thing goes. I'm telling you may be lousy in the first game of the playoffs, but then something happens and you blow it up in the second and third. Green Bay in the final game of the weekend at 6:40 on Fox will be playing I think it's on Fox. They will be playing the Seahawks.
This is blowout city.
This is blowout city.
Blowout city.
And why is this blowout city?
Because the Seahawks are they're not a great team, and Green Bay at home, I think they're playing great defense. I think Aaron Rodgers has a big day.
Well, and plus they have to fly 2 time zones
That's right.
across the
That's
country.
right. Well, that's going to be a wrap on the show today on Matthews in the Morning. JC and the
What a show.
QB. We'll
Thank
see you
to
tomorrow.
Brent Beard.
Brent Beard was awesome. Hopefully have Andy Staples and Josh Booty on the program tomorrow. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.